because we have seen a diminution.
Absolutely buckles my brain. What's this called? Any questions, Radio 4?
But there is a real capability issue.
The level of propaganda we're up against in the UK is just insane. It really, really is. There's been various talking heads on BBC Radio 4. I don't know where they get the panels from. Possibly the British government just pulled them out of cupboards or something like that. I really, really don't know. Every one of them has suggested sending more weapons into the Ukraine. Every one of them has suggested trying to wreck the Russian economy with more sanctions. They're all reading from the same hymn book, the same prayer sheet. It's absolute insanity. It really is. The penny, surely they have advisors and military people telling the government that this is over. One of the guys in here said that NATO should jump across the border, give Russia a bloody nose, and that would put the evil Vladimir Putin on the back foot. Are these people, they are insane, aren't they? I mean, it's already a proxy war between NATO and the Russian Federation. The Ukrainian military have been supplied and equipped and trained with NATO since 2014. They guys have fought like lions. They fought like supermen. And I would say initially in the first 2 weeks, NATO tactics in Ukraine seemed to be working. The Russians they were taking heavy losses. They were losing a lot of military equipment. They were certainly not welcomed with open arms and flowers getting put in their gun barrels. The Ukrainians stood and they fought. I don't believe for 1 minute they were fighting for their government. I hate the government in Scotland. I wouldn't fight for them. Would I fight for my country? Maybe. Would I commit suicide for my country? Absolutely no way. You know? It's getting to a point with the Ukrainian military where they are committing suicide for their country. Now, we're all armchair generals now, aren't we? Before this kicked off, I tacitly follow Russian politics. December of last year, the Russian Federation issued a series of demands to America, NATO, the European Union, the Ukraine. The demands were NATO moved its American nuclear weapons, moved out of Europe. NATO didn't move any further forward to the Ukrainian border, and there was a couple of other caveats. Nobody listened to the Russians. They're fucking listening now, aren't they? God almighty, are they listening now? In the past couple of videos, I've not done one in a couple of weeks because, again, my channel's about falafel shops and me, just the madness that is my life, and it's easy to be an armchair general. However, with the World War III updates, I've said the same things from minute one of day one. The Ukrainian military at some point, and that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago, were going to start getting slaughtered. They are getting slaughtered. The Russians have put them into a mincing machine. For the sake of humanity, send some diplomats in there and negotiate a ceasefire. And you don't know what numbers to believe. However, a couple of people online have said the Ukrainians in Mariupol they've lost 36,000 military personnel. Russian losses, people are estimating between about 10 and 15,000 losses for Russia. That's absolutely horrific. And many civilians have went. You know, yeah, I've seen photos of Mariupol. It's a city that covers 250 square kilometres with 500,000 population. The place is flattened. That is the cream of the Ukrainian military that have been wiped out in there. The next place they're going to is the Donbass in eastern Ukraine, southeastern Ukraine, the Russian military are now moving on to artillery. If anybody's read any history books or knows anything about Russian tactics, artillery's a thing. They guys are going to get eviscerated. So Radio 4, you can fuck off. I'm fed up of hearing it. I've said it from minute one of day one. We need diplomats in here. What's that? 36,000 Ukrainian losses, maybe 12,000 Russian losses. Maybe add a similar amount of civilian casualties in there. We've had one city flattened. The Russian forces will do that to every city in Ukraine unless we negotiate a ceasefire. They don't want American nuclear weapons on their border. I live in Scotland. There's a base 25 miles from where I'm sitting just now. It's got 220 American nuclear weapons in it. I don't want them here either. So I'm not going to be pro-Russian, pro-Ukraine, pro-anything. I'm going to be pro-Scottish. We need to get that stuff out of our country. We are a massive, massive, massive sitting target. Sorry about the negativity of the upload and stuff like that. I think I'll throw one in before I put an end to this. A few weeks ago, there was check this out for absolute stupidity. The British government were encouraging mercenaries to move into Ukraine to give the Russians a bloody nose again. That's absolutely shocking advice, probably illegal on many, many different fronts. If anybody thinks the Russian government and military aren't looking at who are opposing them, again, that's insanity. The Russians are taking notes. Germany is remilitarising itself to fight Russia. Now, get that into your head after what happened in World War II. You can see how that one's going to pan out. I don't think the Germans will be allowed to build a military. The Russians will not stand for it. Poland, I'm going to put my cards on the table. There's so much military hardware moved across their border. They might be next. Any government in Europe that has supplied weapon systems to the Ukrainians should hold referendums in their country because their governments are absolutely insane. The Russians have been whacking the shit out of these weapon shipments the moment they cross the border. Everybody on the BBC Radio 4 saying about the power of NATO and how we should get NATO in there to give them a bloody nose. If NATO could do anything, NATO would have done it. This is not Kosovo, it's not Libya, it's not Iraq. We are talking about possibly the most efficient military machine the world has seen since 1945. But under no illusions. There is nothing, I've said this in videos before, there is nothing, there is no power in Europe that can withstand an onslaught from the Russian Federation. To think there is, again, that's another level of insanity. So I sidetracked a bit here. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, the British government encouraged mercenaries to move into Russia. These guys were posting photos of themselves on Instagram. They were putting photos on TikTok. This is us on the jolly. We're in Poland. We're going to cross the border. The Russian Federation tracked them from the GPS in their phones. Think about that. That shows you how stupid these people were, right? So they got into a base in the Ukraine, which was an ex-Soviet Union nuclear weapons storage facility. The base was designed to take a hit from a nuclear weapon. NATO had moved piles of weapons into this place. All the mercenaries went into it. The Russians found out where it would. Well, they knew anyway because it's an ex-Soviet base. And they were responsible for building the thing. The Russians fired a hypersonic missile. I believe it travels about Mach 10. That's what, 7,500 miles an hour. The base was designed to take a hit from a nuclear weapon. The missile the Russians fired at it, they fired it from 1,200 miles away. It hit bang on the target and it penetrated, it was either 30 or 50 metres of granite. What the fuck has got the power to knock out 30 metres of granite? So they fired it from 1,200 miles away. It went through 90 or 150 feet of granite and totally wasted everybody in the base and all the weapons that were in the base. So there's a great use of British taxpayers' money, American taxpayers' money to da-di-da-di-da. Who's winning this conflict? It's not the Russians, it's not the Ukrainians, it's not the EU. Our economy has been whacked. And the Russians haven't fought back yet. All they have to do, if you think about it, is switch off the oil and gas supply to Europe, and we'll be eating our pets in a fortnight. We will be eating our children in a month. I cannot understand people like the BBC and other propaganda outfits in the West and the bile, the nonsense that they're spewing. We need diplomats in there, and we need to negotiate a ceasefire before an entire generation of Ukrainian men gets turned into mince. I'm not trying to denigrate the Ukrainian military. The guys are as hard as nails. They fought like lions. They cannot take on the Russian Federation. There was another interesting thing I read as well, right? The Russian military, depending on what numbers you read, went in at a 2-to-1 or up to a 6-to-1 disadvantage in manpower. The forces the Russians put in initially were outnumbered 2-to-1 to 6-to-1 by the Ukrainians. Now, they took heavy hits in the first 2 or 3 weeks. They are not taking heavy hits now. They've worked out NATO tactics. They've worked out they've worked out how to overcome what the NATO mob are throwing at them, and they've got them in a bloody mincing machine. So, as ever, I'm a pacifist, I'm a vegetarian. People in the BBC, they should be in the jail. Your politicians that are sending weapons in there, they should be in the jail. They should be in court trials or whatever. They're insane. Bunch of absolute muppets. So there's a nice cheery upload for you. How do you fire a projectile through 90 feet of granite? That base was designed to take a direct hit from a nuke and survive it. The Russian Federation managed to whack it, one missile from 1,200 miles away. They didn't even have to overfly the territory of the Ukraine to fire it. So to my Ukrainian brothers and sisters, I wish you peace. What's that?
She's out of you.
Is she? Right. Okay, I'm going to hang up. I'm working just now. Right, take care. Speak soon. Bye.